because even with all the research we did, there were still a lot of pieces missing that have been coming to us lately. Stimulating economic growth, again, repeating that statement, that's huge. Because of who we are in Ferndale, we're actually growing, and we want to grow some more. Now, there's questions as, do we have a parking deficit? And it's not a parking deficit every hour of every day. There's the study that was done takes into square footage of the buildings of the downtown area, the usage of that, because a retail store will need less parking spaces than a salon, than a restaurant. So that's all brought into the mix. And it's not just here on this Woodward to Allen area, it's the other side of Woodward, it's both sides of 9 Mile. So we have a current supply of 2,400 parking spots. And in the daytime, at peak usage, and that's one thing that's missing on the slide, this is peak usage, we have a deficit of 115 spots. It's not just a Withington lot, it's not just the Troy lot, it's what's behind Dino's, it's what's behind the WAB. It's all of these things coming together. In the evening deficit, we have 483 spots that we're short on. And again, let's talk about peak usage. Peak usage is Friday night. Peak usage is when there is a game on Saturday. Peak usage is when there's a big Tigers game that everyone wants to come to the bars to see. It's also the time that people want to shop. It's also the time that people want to get their hair done. Peak usage is the time that it's most convenient for people who come into Ferndale to come here. And they're going to circle this lot, and they're going to circle that lot, and then they're going to go away. And that's what kills us most. Because it's that peak time. I don't make my money on Monday morning. I don't make any money then. When I make money is Friday night, or Friday afternoon, or those times when everyone else wants to be around here. Now we do have a shift. We have stores that close, some at 5, some at 6, some at 7. We have restaurants that open at 4, 5. So we have that. But and we know over the years that deficit is just going to get bigger. We've had a 56% increase in parking deficit since 2006. In the evening, a big increase in the afternoon. We've had a 2% increase in supply. We have had the last significant increase in parking spots was in 2000, and it was 80 spots. That's the last significant increase. We've had small increases here and there with changing the way some lines are drawn, etc. And every parking spot helps, absolutely. But we have done our job in growing the downtown. So now we need to grow the parking so we can grow more. I want to talk about the parking deficit one more time. That when you only have 10 spots available for your store, or 100 spots available for your restaurant, and you have a 150-seat restaurant, that means your restaurant can never grow past this spot. We have amazing businesses here in Ferndale. We have great restaurants, we have great salons, we have great candle stores. And but it can only grow so much. We have an amazing dollar store that I shop at all the time. And it can only grow so much because if you can't find a parking spot, you can't shop there. So there's many things that the DDA has done over the years. As you're reading, we talked about a parking study in 2006. There was a Withington parking lot study. There was a joint City Hall parking lot study with the city. We had a parking committee that we began. We reassessed the parking deficit again in 2009. And we spent a lot of time trying to launch the employee shuttle program. And we learned that the cost of the employee shuttle program would be more than an employee parking in the lot with a pass or with their quarters. And so that kind of bombed. But this is also that change in thinking. I mean, really, in the short term, we have about 200 restaurant employees from all the restaurants and all the parking lots on a top evening. That's 200 spots that our employees are taking up either in the lots or, as what I'm hearing more and more, in the neighborhoods. And And you know what, our employees, God bless them, they're working real hard for us, and they don't necessarily make a whole lot of money to be able to pay for a whole lot of parking. But if we created a shift in thinking, and we had a safe place for employees to park, and a shuttle that ran every 15 minutes to take them to their parking spot. And by the way, that 200 is just restaurant workers. It doesn't include retail workers or salon workers. So if there was a way that we could create this shift in thinking and get some of the employees out of the spots, especially in the peak hours, and get them back to their cars safely, had a shuttle that could run back and forth and you can pick it up right in front of your business. That's one of the things we worked on. Yes, it bombed, but we learned a lot from that. Now in December we had a joint meeting with the city when the city said, I need to know what it's going to take to put a parking deck in. And the city's parking committee and the DDA's parking committee had different pieces of information. We brought them all together, and the DDA made a presentation to the city on what it would take to finance a parking deck based on what we have in front of us now. The things that we discovered were not so great. The parking pass is going up a huge amount. That's not great at all. That affects people in a terrible way. Some people just can't afford that. Just different hardships that we learned from that wasn't the best solution. And the city council said, nope, this is not good enough. Go back to the drawing board. And as the DDA, we kind of went, I'm out of information. I'm out of resources. I'm out of ability to create another answer. And so that's part of why we adopted this resolution, because we don't know what else to do. We can't find the money in the DDA to build a parking deck. We don't control the auto parking fund. There's many challenges, and so we're bringing it back to the city. We have done as much as we can with the resources we have. So thus the resolution that a lot of you got and you're reading, and basically the gist of the point of the resolution is we need the city to take immediate action for the downtown parking. Now, downtown parking doesn't just affect downtown. Downtown parking has been feeding all of Ferndale for quite a while. But let's talk about some of the solutions that we came to the city with. One of them being enforcement. There is not enough enforcement of the parking right now. And mainly that's in the residential streets where there's only supposed to be 2-hour parking. There used to be the thought process in Ferndale that it was cheaper to not feed the meter and risk a ticket and play ticket roulette than it was to actually feed the meter. So parking enforcement has increased and the tickets have increased. So people are actually feeding the meter, and I've watched customers go, oh, let me get a quarter. Then we come to the meters. It would be easier to feed the meter if you could use a card rather than a quarter, or if you could use the nickels and dimes that you still have in your pockets. So we need to change the way the meters are, update them. That's one of the things that we realized could increase our revenue. Right now our meters are outdated. They're very limited. If you want to change the value of parking to, say, $2 an hour, you actually literally have to put new guts in it. So we need to update our meters so we can actually have different costs for prime times versus lower costs when it's not as much of a prime time. And then also with the meters, meter past 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at night, the majority of the parking is used in the evening. Let's bring the majority of the cost into the evening. That'll help with that. Parking fines, we brought that to the city council and they increased the fine. Their residential passes, that's something else we brought to the table so that residents have the right to park in front of their own house, if they have a pass. That's a whole system that would need to be built. Land use planning is not only how we're going to use the parking lots, but also who's going to go where. How are the liquor licenses going to be shifted around? How's all that going to be happening? And plan a little bit better on how it affects everyone. At the time